This is a breakdown of the first race of the year, the Autobahn Omnium men's 4-5 circuit race. This is my first race of the year, and I have a few goals coming into this race that I'm going to get into in a bit, but I just wanted to highlight right off the bat that we have a nearly cyclocross start where I got a pretty good clip in, not from the first row, but I did notice that this rider, Aiden, has really been sending it for basically the first minute here, and he continues to pedal hard. So, big goals for this race. My starting strategy is I want to keep my nose clean. I want to be up near the front of the race here. This is the first race of the season for basically everybody in this field. This is also a field that's filled with people who have a little less experience, and so in order to keep things really safe, I want to be up in front of a lot of different wheels here. I notice the pace slowing down a little bit, and I jump thinking that Aiden maybe is putting in a little bit of a kick. He backs off right away, and I find myself in a place where you really don't usually want to be at. On the very front of the race, early on in the race, pedaling at 350, 400 watts, burning matches, but I didn't really mind it too much. So let's break down the course here. Right now, we are going into a near block headwind. The wind is coming out of the southwest today, sustained at 18 miles per hour. This is a typical Midwest spring race here, so we have a howling wind. Weather's not too bad. You can see that the track is a little wet from some morning showers, but that's not really a factor in this race. What is a factor is the wind. So right now we're in a headwind section. I'm sure I have the entire peloton hanging on my rear wheel behind me, but I don't mind it too much. I'm not spending a lot of bullets right now. I'm riding right around my threshold. I'm pinned to the right side of the course. Now that we've turned a little bit, it's a bit of a head crosswind, and so I'm using the technical term guttering the field. I'm about ready to make this turn, which gets us onto the west portion of the track, which we're going to have a tailwind. So I wanted to accelerate here, and the reason I wanted to accelerate here is that we just hit the tailwind section. The draft becomes way less important as we hit a tailwind. So what happens here is that looking back, and I'm seeing that I have a 2 to 4 second gap, and right now I am solo off the front. That's another position that you really don't necessarily want to be in early in a race, is solo off the front, because typically when you're solo off the front, you're burning matches, you're fighting the wind when the vast majority of the people behind you are tucked in somebody's wheel and saving their energy, and you are making yourself a bit of a target if there's going to be a future move. So typically it's a strategy that you really don't want to be executing on the early portions of a 60-minute race, which this is. But I'm okay with it because I have a few goals here. One, like I said before, is to keep my nose clean, to keep out of the scrum of the pack. And my second goal of this race is to make it selective. I want to put in efforts that is going to reduce my competitors, the field size behind me. Whether that's by dropping some stragglers out the back of the peloton, or whether that's by putting in the move that starts a breakaway group. I don't really care either way. I want this tailwind section to be selective because it suits my fitness. I'm more of a diesel threshold rider. I'm a heavier rider right now. I'm sitting with a little bit of winter weight at 190 pounds or so. And this course suits me because of that tailwind section and because it's generally very flat. There's some gentle rises and gentle valleys, but nothing that would really slow me down. But here I find myself hovering about 2 to 4 seconds off the front. The whole peloton is behind me, checking behind me, and I'm about ready to make a turn off of the western portion of this track onto the eastern portion of this track, which is a mix of crosswind and headwinds here. So again, I'm doing this dangle. This is a part of the course where I'm wasting energy versus the majority of the people behind me, including the people that are eventually going to be the most competitive with me. But I get to, try out a few things. It's the first race of the year, so I get to see how my aero position is, just bending my arms, getting low, ducking my head a little bit. And I'm also just dangling off the front of the peloton here in case somebody wanted to put in a big effort to bridge up to me without pulling the entire peloton with me, because it just takes 1 or 2 people to bridge up to you, start rolling together, to really increase the speed and to make the big group behind you work way harder to bring you back. But much to my frustration, and probably a good strategy for the people sort of sitting in for this longer Cat 4-5 race, they are letting me be off the front, letting me ride my threshold pace solo here. So 2023. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. So equipment check here. I brought my Specialized Tarmac. It's a used bike that I bought in 2013 that I've been racing with on the road since then. I have it set up with fairly deep section rim brake wheels and older GP 5000 TL 25s in the front and 28s in the rear. I did notice after this race that the rear wheels had ballooned out to measure around 30, almost 31 millimeters, and that doesn't really work with the rear triangle of the Specialized Tarmac. So I did notice that going fast through some of these fast speed turns was, flexing the tire a little bit, and I had lost a few layers of paint around my bottom bracket area, and so unfortunately I've had to since get rid of those really nice fast rolling tires and switch down to small, narrower tires that are a little harsher, a little rougher. I'm really missing out on some of the more modern upgrades of the more modern disc brake bikes that can accommodate much wider tires and offer a much comfier ride and what I believe to be a faster ride. But still here on the front by myself, and I believe it's at this little valley that I'm turning into right now that the peloton behind me speeds up and eventually starts closing the distance on me. Coming into this race, I didn't know whether I really wanted to do it or not. I'd heard good things from my Brazen Dropouts teammates about the Autobahn Omnium. A few of my teammates had done the full Omnium, including a time trial in the morning, this circuit race, and then a Sunday Criterium, which was, I believe, solely hosted on the northern part of the track. I figured that it would be good practice for me to practice riding in a group, fast turns, solve any equipment issues or any issues that might come up with like going to race day. It's a course that suits my fitness, and it's a good test of how I'm coming out of the winter training period in Wisconsin, which had a lot of frozen trail mountain bike riding, had a lot of indoor trainer riding, and then when I could get outside and put toe warmers on my toes, a decent amount of outdoor riding. So I'm hearing some freewheels behind me right now. This is lap 2, and we're coming to the end of the headwind section. So the consequential portion of the race is about ready to happen here. Once again, I pin myself to the right side. I'm hearing a large group of people coming up behind me. I look around and I see them. At this juncture, I'm getting to the portion of the track that I really want, that I've really targeted in order to make the race hard. And most importantly, I didn't do any efforts over the last 11 minutes or so that really drained me. And so I'm fresh-ish, and I'm ready to once again put in another dig. So in front of me here is Ryan on the EMC Masters team. I asked him, "You want to hit it?" And I think he was a little incredulous in that I was off the front this whole time, and I was willing to put in another effort here, but I had to. He didn't just have to trust me. So I wanted to show him how committed I was to making this race selective. And so I put in a bit of a dig through this moderate chicane. Then I flick my elbow, and he's happy to oblige. At this point, looking around, the field is really strung out. If you want to get a better, much more dynamic view of how this race played out, I recommend Rage's video, who did both a full race and a commentary and put that on his YouTube. He sort of shows what this looks like from both perspective of inside the peloton and bridging up to the brake. But yeah, we're keeping it really fast here. I have to take a decent turn at the chicane. But right now my heart rate's under control. I'm putting in more of an effort than I would have been putting in solo. But I really want to keep it fast and keep it selective. And we're going over this rise here at 30 miles per hour, aided by that tailwind. I move over to the left side of the track here and just got a little bit of a view of who we're working with here. And who we're working with right now are sort of the hitters of the race. So right now in the front in the blue Rafa kit is Eric. Behind him is Ben on Indigo. I'm third in the line right now, and behind us right now, bridging up to the brake, putting in a really, really strong effort is Rage. And through this tailwind section, this is the group of 5 that is going to be off the front for the middle portion of this race. So really happy with successfully executing my strategy of making it selective. Nobody right now is cagey about their rotations and their turns. Everybody's putting in a really good effort on the fronts. And when they're ready to peel off after their allotted time, they're ready to they get off the fronts and they let somebody else take a nice pull on the front and keep things fast. It's important coming into this headwind section that those rotations get a little shorter, just so that you can spike up a little more power, maintain a little bit more speed, and in general the rest that you get behind somebody during a headwind section is a little more consequential than the rest that you get behind somebody on the tailwind section. Just the draft matters a little more. So right now my heart rate is under control. I'm in a really good position. I'm looking back, I'm seeing that we have a gap, but we have a little bit of work to do in order to make sure that gap gets cemented. Coming up on my left here is Rage. He's pretty tired right now from making that bridge up to the brake. Ryan lets him know that we need to keep it fast right now. This is a very important part of the break. Rage says, "I'm tired." understandable because he came from way deeper in the field than we were. We basically rolled off the front, but Rage had to come from many people back, and so he skips a pull initially, but we're at the portion of the break that there's not a lot of dysfunction here. It's okay if somebody is skipping a turn as long as they're committed to maybe taking their next turn. And really, with a group of 5 like this, we're just trying to make it successful right now. There's no organized effort back from the peloton to pull us back, and that's helpful for us. There's teams with representation. I believe that there was a good deal of my own teammates, Brazen Dropouts, of Indigo. I don't know if there was any more EMC riders who are teammates of Ryan, but we have good representation in this breakaway. I don't think that's a consideration that happens a lot in the 4-5 field, but it does happen in that if there's good representation in the breakaway, there's less of an impetus to chase down a breakaway. Okay, so that was the first full 2 laps. Cut up a little bit. We've done a little bit of rotating. This is lap 3, and I want to showcase a little bit of cobwebs that I have here early on in the season. So I'm in the middle of the line right now. I look over my left shoulder to check. I drift a little bit to the left. I'm surprised by the lack of pace, the pace that was let out a little bit, and I just make a airhead move, and unfortunately make a little bit of a dangerous deviation here. So apologies for that. I managed to not cross over wheels, but I had to do a little bit of emergency braking in order to avoid any incidents, and thankfully Eric behind me was watching the whole thing happen. He kept himself safe. I apologize to Eric in the moment there, but I think I said something like, early season jitters, but that's just something where it's a learning opportunity. So we've gotten to lap 4. Here you have a bit of dysfunction going on in this group right now. Gaps are being let open. I believe Ben was the one that initially let that gap open to Eric. I sort of sit back, let a bigger gap open. I'm feeling decent right now, and I bridge that gap quick. And the reason why you do that is first of all, you don't want to necessarily jump right in when somebody skips a pull. If the group is well established and somebody is skipping pulls, sitting in and resting to maybe make sure that they're well rested for sprints or to break away from the group. I didn't let it get out too long because I was a little worried that I wouldn't get back onto the wheels of both Ryan and Eric if I let the gap out too long before this tailwind section. So I want to talk about the dynamics of the tailwind section here a little bit. If you are right on the wheel of the guy in front of you, you aren't pedaling at your full... You're not putting out the same power as the guy on the front. I mean, that seems sort of logical and obvious, but I've noticed that in a tailwind, if you even have a bit of a gap, even if it's like 2 bike lengths, the effect of the draft disappears pretty quickly. And so you really want to be diligent about staying close to the wheel in front of you, especially on the tailwind section. And that'll also put you in a good position to react if anybody was to put in a bit of an effort. So I didn't know it at the time because, again, I'm not keeping my head on the swivel like I really should be at this point. But this effort, the good chicane that we put in here, the little bit of snap and the correction to a little bit of the group dysfunction that was happening has popped off the first person of our 5 in the breakaway. And Rage, that was Rage, he got shunted back to the group. He unfortunately was dislodged from our group. It's fortunate for me, but unfortunate for Rage. He was dislodged from the group here. So I fast forwarded a little bit here. I just wanted to showcase that we were on the road at the same time as the Masters 40 plus 50 plus field. And we got instructions from the referee beforehand that if there was going to be a group to catch the group up the road, that the group up the road would be neutralized. They were instructed not to work with us. You can hear the group in the Masters shouting words of encouragement over to Eric there. But yeah, at that point, we still had a group of 4. I don't know exactly when Ben was dislodged from our group, but I went ahead and fast forwarded to the end of the race here. First of all, I want to apologize. This is the first time taking this older GoPro out to a race, and unfortunately the battery didn't quite last all the way till the end, so I didn't get that sprint, so apologies for that. I make a bit of a boneheaded move coming up here. I still don't trust my sprint, and I've noticed that I'm pretty good at self-sabotaging here. And I'm about ready to make a move here, opening up a bit of a sprinter's gap. I notice that in front of me, Ryan is sort of checking him. He's flicking me through. He's looking over his right shoulder. I go over his left shoulder. My goal here is to get a bit of separation immediately, because I want to put in the last lap attack because I don't trust my sprint. But on review here, putting in a spike at 1,000 watts with my size, and then riding at 500, 400 watts, 34 miles per hour, that type of effort isn't going to dislodge these 2 guys behind me. It was really a wasted effort, unfortunately. You can see my heart rate's pretty spiked right now. It's pretty hard, so it's easy to sit here, commentate, looking at my effort that I did and saying I really should have gone harder. But truly, if I wanted to get distance, I should have done an all or nothing attack. Really put in a good 30-second effort. Maybe closer to the 600, 700 watt range, get up and maintain 34, 35 miles per hour. I'm looking back, I noticed that I have a gap, but it's a small gap. It's maybe a second gap on the group behind me, and they're slowly reeling me in. And here I shut it down a little bit. I know that I've been caught. So I've been caught. My heart rate's high. I'm very paranoid of the counterattack here. I'm being very cagey about my positioning on the road. I'm trying to ride and recover a little bit. You know, I'm only going 26 miles per hour in this tailwind section, but I'm also trying to keep it fast enough that if somebody were to do a really hard counterattack on me right now, that I wouldn't have to do a really long acceleration in order to get back onto their wheel. That's the issue with doing a half measure like the attack that I did, is that I've tired myself out. They're probably tired behind me, but I've put myself in a bad position. I'm still on the front here, and whereas on the first lap, being on the front, no issue. On the last lap, being on the front is a much bigger issue. People behind me get to sit in, get to pick their moment to either make an attack or sprint. You see my rear tire skipped there. I wonder if that was a issue related to the fact that I didn't have very good tire clearance and it hit my frame, or I just found a little rubber strip and I lost a little bit of traction. But that attack sort of spelled my doom in this race. It's just sort of drifting over to the side to provide the least amount of draft for the people in front of me. It's not really going to matter at this point because my heart rate's still really high. I'm pretty tired of after having done a pretty long threshold level effort up until this point, and it's just sort of waiting for the inevitable come around. So what happens eventually is that I go for a sprint from the front. That obviously isn't going to work, especially after I've already put in an effort. Eric goes first, I believe, and he gets a really good jump. And it's Eric 1, Ryan 2, me 3. Thank you. Hope to get out a few more videos this year. Definitely some more cyclocross videos. And I'll catch you later.